Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. I'm your host Scott and back with me as always is my good friend Dan, and on this week's podcast we are joined by Twitter swimming legend Pullbuoy, otherwise Steve, as everyone should know him by his real name. And we are going to be talking some fun topics in swimming. We're going to be having some fun for a change and not an interview. So Steve, welcome. How are things with you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's all good. Enjoying watching the swimming that's going on around the world. Lots of fast swimming so far this year. So it's been good to get my geek on already in early March. So plenty more to come in trial season. Not far, is it?
Yeah, no, close, very close. Hopefully, it's a little bit more of a laid back this summer with not 3 champs, just the one
for everybody. A bit more laid back. Yeah, it'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I feel like the 3 meets for that one summer was a bit too much. And the fact that, someone like Ben Proud managed to do all 3 and win gold in all of them, that's just outstanding. But it's just the one this summer, so which I think is good for everyone.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so the premise of this week's podcast is we are going to be talking through topics in the swimming world. We're going to present them to each other and discuss whether we think they are under or overhyped. So essentially, one person is going to present their topic to the 2 other people on the podcast. We are going to then debate what the buzz around this topic is and whether it's kind of justified or unjustified, whether people are talking about it enough or not enough. And every person can use one perfectly hyped throughout the whole podcast. So I think we're aiming to go through 3 rounds, maybe 4 if recording time is lucky. We're going to start with British swimming, international, and then miscellaneous and bonus, whatever we get to. And yeah, you're allowed to use perfectly hyped once. So, if you 2 are ready, I will present the first topic.
Go for
it. Hit us.
Cool. So, as everyone knows, Katinka Hossu's 200-meter IM world record might actually be one of the most impressive world records still on the books. But is Siobhan Marie O'Connor's British record in a 2:06.88 over or under hyped?
Oh, I mean, I already know the answer. Steve, you're the British swimming geek, if you like. Do you want to start with that?
Right. Well, I always think that swim didn't get on the clock, didn't get the credit it deserved. I mean, it was a race that Katinka wanted to win. She dropped another event because she'd seen how well Siobhan was swimming. So I think everyone got wrapped up pretty much in the in the head to head. It wasn't obviously a world record from Katinka, but a very, very fast time. And I think people kind of got wrapped up in, oh look, Siobhan's pushed Katinka all the way. It's really close, and the time, especially with the Olympic silver medal, the time maybe gets forgotten a bit. So I think that doesn't get the credit it deserves. So underhyped for me.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I'm going from the point of view of the swims that are happening lately. And, Tokyo gold medal was won in 2:07, I think it was, mid 2:07.5. And that's still over half a second away from Siobhan's best time. And that's not really talked about. Obviously, the Hossu world record is talked about the most because that is the best time. But actually, Siobhan's time is, you have to correct me if I'm wrong here, probably the 2nd fastest ever, or up there anyway. And I
think it's third. I think
third.
Mariana Kukor's in a poly suit, maybe in between the 2 of them. But yeah, it's right up there.
And it's almost like a forgotten British record a little bit for some strange reason. And it's a fantastic time. And she did it. We were doing a bit of research before, weren't we, Scott? And she was 21 at the time, I think, 22.
20.
Yeah. Oh, 20 was it? Oh, 20. Yeah, which makes it's just an incredible time. And I agree with you, Steve. It's very underhyped, I think.
I think she only retired like 18 months ago, and it's almost a forgotten name of British swimming already, which is a shame because that swim is world class.
Yeah, definitely.
It doesn't feel like it was only 18 months ago that she retired. Yeah. It feels like she's been gone for a lot longer, which is we're doing her a disservice, I think.
Absolutely.
By
So
saying that.
We're starting off with an easy one. Dan, what have you got?
My one's about Ponds Forge and the racing of short course there. So as we all know, Ponds Forge is the home of British swimming, with it being known as a very, very quick pool. But are short course times in that pool over or underhyped?
Ooh.
See, Scott, you had this You had this conversation with Stephen Tigg, so I'm going to let you go first.
I did. It's a tough one in the context of this podcast because people know the times are fast there, so technically they're already hyped up to a point. But I think that hyping up is overhyped because they are... Oh, it's tough because... Sorry, what I'm trying to say is the times there are hyped up, but everyone knows it's a fast pool. So already they're kind of... Everyone knows they're overhyped, which makes it under. Does that make sense? So for the actual swim, I'm tying knots around myself here. Everyone thinks that... Everyone already knows the time there is almost like a handicap of a fast swim. So does that mean that they're actually under? I'm not sure.
I think maybe where Dan's coming from is that you see times from, you just see the time and you think, wow, that's a fast time, and then you always have that, but it was at Ponds Forge, and it does that mean that the times aren't given the credit they deserve, or does that mean everyone has to have a set of times for Ponds Forge and a set of times for everywhere else that they swim? Yeah. I know I had that when I used to swim. It was Ponds Forge best times and then best times everywhere else. But I think everyone's very comfortable there, aren't they? The whole environment, not just the pool. So people will swim fast.
Does it do a disservice to swims like Matt Richards' British record? The fact that it came from Ponds Forge. Does that do a disservice that people are like, it's Ponds Forge?
That's kind of the reason why I brought it up, because that time is obviously incredible, but because it was done at Ponds Forge, people are like, it doesn't... It's almost like it doesn't really count because it's at Ponds Forge, if that kind of makes sense. That's why I brought up this topic.
So you're on the lines of they're probably underhyped.
Yeah, it's confusing because I'm now starting to get knots in my head, because I'm like, when I thought of this, I was like, right, these are overhyped because you're at Ponds Forge, you're supposed to hit a best time, and it's supposed to that's the reason why Matt got his record so it shouldn't be overhyped because it was at Ponds Forge. Is that right? I think I'm making sense by saying that. Yeah.
I think you are, but I still don't know whether we're going over or under. I know what you mean.
It feels like it feels like a waste to use perfectly hyped this early on.
Yeah,
but it kind of... Everyone knows that they're overhyped, so they... God. I'll go underhyped. I'll go under. I think they are very good swims no matter what. And I think a pool's a pool.
Yeah, I think I'll go with that as well, under. Yeah, I think that's fair. We've got to give the swimmers some credit and not just give it all to the boom.
Yes, yeah. That's a good way to end that topic, yeah. That's a nice one.
Okay, Steve.
So, British swimming. Now, this is something that I get a lot on Twitter. Every time someone drops a good time, I get people in my replies saying, the men's 4x1 freestyle relay is going to be amazing. We're going to come Paris, we're going to be so good. And I get carried away with it as well. And I wonder whether we overhype it. Now, can I give you some numbers to help explain this? So the four fastest 100-metre freestylers Britain's ever had are all swimming at the moment. That's Lewis Burris, Tom Dean, Duncan Scott, Jacob Whittle. The four fastest splits that Britain has had 100 freestyle, all still that are currently swimming. Duncan Scott 46.1, Tom Dean 46.7, Matt Richards 47.5, Jacob Whittle 47.5. Now you can probably discount the 46.1, but Duncan's got a 46.9 in there as well. So Britain could go to the Olympics, and if everyone fires on the day, have 2 46 splits and 2 47 splits, which is unheard of. But are we getting carried away is my question.
So where's the level of hype up, do you reckon, Dan? I think the level of hype is this is a gold medal winning relay team. I think it's got to that level.
But is that because of the British bias?
Yeah, but we're a British podcast. I think that's where the level... I think that's where the level starts. I genuinely do. Because I'm like Steve said, I'm guilty of that. I see those four swimmers. I'm like, well, that's an outstanding relay team.
And I think I get like that because you look at the age and you think, like, Matt's still very young. Jacob is still very young. You've got Tom Dean, who is still in his early 20s. Duncan is still mid 20s. Lewis is still in the early 20s. You think this team, if they keep going the way they are, we are looking like world beaters. I don't know if we're going to get the world record. I don't know, but if we can medal, I think, at one of these major competitions. So in that, I maybe it was overhyped at the start, but I actually think it will eventually be underhyped.
Yeah, you used the word world beater, so I'm going to say this is an overhyped relay team straight away. You've got to beat the Americans and the Aussies to start with.
It depends.
I think the level of expectation on, like you said, young guys is too high right now. I think it's overhyped right now.
And especially with two of those top 100-meter swimmers in Tom Dean and Duncan, that's not their preferred event. They're both 200 freestylers, and it looks like 200 IM swimmers as well. So they wouldn't actually be targeting that event as a priority. They will have busy schedules, obviously. So yeah, I don't know. We obviously British bias. We want them to be absolutely incredible, but maybe they're overhyped. I don't know. I hate to say that because I want to see them do the best that they can. So yeah, I don't know. Steve, where do you think?
See, I get very excited by it. So I buy sitting down looking at the numbers. I mean, at Worlds there wasn't or in Tokyo there wasn't a single team that had two 46-point splits in those finals. In Tokyo there were only two in the final. In Budapest there were only three: Ryan Held, Kyle Chalmers, and Christoph Milak. So if you can get two, and your other two guys fire, then you're in with a massive shot. But I do know that that's a long shot. It relies on everyone being on top form on their day. So I think they're a definite medal chance, but I think it's a little overhyped at the moment. But I would love to be wrong.
Well, that's just it. It's overhyped at the moment, but then give it a year, and you're like, oh, actually, it was perfectly hyped potentially. So,
give it a year. I was going to say give it a few weeks and see what happens at Champs, because that 100 free just final is going to be really competitive.
Yeah, it's exciting either way. So let's should we say overhyped for now? And then give it till like April, May, and we're like, okay, no, yeah, it's underhyped. We're going to win. Yeah.
Someone's going to clip this and just say, what idiots, but yes.
Yeah, probably, yeah, maybe, yeah.
Okay, right, that's the British section done. I'll move on to the international then, and I'll start with a fairly controversial one for you two, because I know where the world sits with this one. So Summer McIntosh recently broke world junior records in the 200 free, the 200 IM, 400 IM. She is crushing it. And all of our YouTube comments on our main YouTube channel are hyping her up to be the world capable of taking down world records like the 200 fly. You wouldn't believe the amount of comments. It's more than Popovich now. It is just crazy. Every day there's two or three saying, oh, she's going to take that world record. No problem whatsoever. But is she being over or underhyped? Because of those world records are impossibly hard to take down.
From the 200 fly point of view, I would agree that's very, very hard to do. I mean,
impossible.
It wasn't. Nothing's impossible.
If you're talking about her and that 200 fly record, that's overhyped. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
She's
definitely
amazing. But that 200 fly record, quite apart from the suit, is ridiculous.
What about potential world records then, and Summer McIntosh? Let's include a wider range of them.
I believe that she will get the 400 IM eventually. I don't think it will be within a year. Maybe she'll get it in 2 years' time. I don't know. Maybe she might do it in Paris. But I think that will be her best chance of getting a world record. We've spoken about Hossu's 200 IM world record as well. That is hard. I don't think anyone's really getting close to it at the moment. She did just go 208, didn't she, very recently? 208.0. So she's only about like a second and a half off, which is still quite a lot, obviously. 200 fly, I don't think anyone's getting for a while. I mean, we spoke about it, I can't remember when, but Zhang Yufei was she's the only swimmer that's got close, and she's still 2 seconds away, which is huge. So I don't think she's going to get that one, but I do think the 400 IM is in her capabilities, definitely.
If I was going to pick one, I'd have picked the 400 IM as her best shot. I think the 200 free she could do, but I have a feeling that someone else might get it first, and then it'll be even harder.
There's a schedule clash at the Olympics between those two as well, isn't there? I think they're on the same day.
Well, that won't help. Yeah.
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 I would imagine she would target the 4IM more so than a 200 free. She might do both. I could probably foresee her doing both, but the 400 IM is definitely her priority, I imagine, because she would definitely be going favourite into that race. 200 free she could do, but I see Titmus getting the world record before anyone else, like Ledecky or Haughey or anyone else. So, yeah, like Steve said, that will be a harder record to get again. But is she overhyped or underhyped? Again, it's kind of similar to the 4x1. I think give it a year or two, and then she'll be perfectly hyped. But as of right now, I think she is overhyped.
In the context of those world records.
Of the world records, yes. Yeah.
I think everyone rightly is getting excited about her as a swimmer because she's amazing. I don't think she's overhyped, in what she's achieved or what her potential is. But that 200 fly world record is right out.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you agree, Scott? Is that what you were thinking as well for you?
Yeah. Like, honestly, me and Dan sit down with some of these YouTube comments every evening, just like, really? It's a little far-fetched at times. But I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited, nevertheless.
She's good for the sport, isn't she? I mean, being that good so young, as she stays within the same, if she keeps going for another decade or so, then who knows where she can go. But, that 200 fly looks pretty... I don't want to say impossible because someone will get it eventually, but it's not looking like it's going to go for a long time yet. Anyway, shall I do mine? Let's do mine.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Michael Phelps. Let's talk about the best swimmer ever. He was obviously known for his prowess in butterfly and IM, but not particularly remembered for his sprint freestyle. Is his PB in the 100-meter freestyle over or under hyped?
Ooh.
Didn't you go 47.1? I got my head. Did he go 47.1?
47.5 is his record. He did it in the Jason Lezak relay, the one that was supposedly the best relay ever in Beijing. Yeah.
So are you thinking that swim by itself or more his sprint freestyle?
The PB, his swim, his time.
Okay, so in the context of that race, I don't think anyone remembers his time. Although if you watch it back, you do notice Phelps is right up there with the Aussie. I forget his name off the top of my head.
Eamon Sullivan.
Eamon Sullivan.
Who set a world record, and Phelps was right with him. So
0.3 off or something, yeah.
It's kind of forgotten in the Lezak swim how fast Phelps went.
I think his sprint freestyle is forgotten generally because he was so good at so many other things. I come at this question the other way around. You go, okay, 47.5, you might look at it now and think, well, it's good. It's not amazing the way things are going. But then you look at it, how many 400 IMers can go 47.5?
That's true.
Not many is what I would say to that, if any. As well as being able to do all the other things that he could do, 154, 200 IM or whatever. So I think he was underrated as a 100 freestyler, I would say. So underhyped for me. Yeah,
I tend to agree. I've just had a quick search to see Christoph Milak's 100 free. I think he's in the... Well, no, he is. I'd say he's the modern day Phelps bar the IM in terms of 2 fly to 100 freestyle. And I'd say Milak's swims in 100 free are pretty well bigged up now. Everyone knows what he's capable of. He's seen as... I think we had some comments saying he's going to take down Popovich's world record.
We had one of those, I remember.
Yeah,
that.
we did.
Yeah.
So that's hyped up, and he went a 47.47. So it's exactly the same as Phelps then. So if you're saying what sort of time is Phelps doing it, if you're looking at that angle, Steve, I'd say that time is good for someone of the events he does. Yeah, so
absolutely, yeah, my point precisely.
Yeah, underrated then.
Yeah,
I'd say that.
I completely agree with you.
To be fair, when you first put this question forward, I thought his fastest 100 free time was actually in like the second half of his career, the Rio days, but it's not. It was that 2008. Peak. So if you're basing it on that swim, which was it's forgotten how fast he went in that relay. So underhyped quite comfortably actually.
Yeah, in the end it is a little bit, because it's American record and only 0.3 off the world record, and because of the Lezak swim and how dramatic the race ended, I'd wonder if that swim that actually Phelps did was the main factor in them winning the gold in the end, not Lizak's 46.0.
We could debate that.
Maybe
all
I'm
day.
lying. Maybe I'm lying there. But either way, either way, I think it is underhyped, definitely.
I was going to say, America won the gold because Alan Bernard doesn't know which side of a lane to swim on.
Yeah.
Cool. Steve, moving on.
Right, moving swiftly on. Indeed. You'll have Carl Sockwell on the case if you say that sort of thing. I'm going to throw internationally. I'm going to throw a name out of someone I think is very underrated. So I'm saying very underhyped is where I'm starting this, and I'm going to say Siobhan Haughey of Hong Kong, freestyle swimmer, obviously, that we know. We found out this week she's a pretty decent breaststroker as well, sprint breaststroker at the pro swim. But I think we know she's how good she is. I think though the events she swims, she got silver in Tokyo in the 100 and the 200 free, and the people who beat her in those events, so Emma McKinn in the 100 and Ariana Titmus in the 200, were such big stars of that meet. I think that her achievement and just how good she was kind of overlooked a little bit. I mean, she's got some ludicrously fast times, and I haven't got them in front of me now, having said that she's got ludicrously fast times. But she's got a world record short course for 200 free at 150.3 from the 2021 Worlds. She's got ludicrous speed. I mean, you see her in the ISL and she's swimming everything.
See, that was where I was going to respond first. If ISL was still going regularly and was still a thing at the end of last year and starting this year, I would say she would probably be perfectly hyped, because ISL did wonders for her profile. When going into Tokyo, I had suddenly heard of Siobhan Haughey. She was on my radar going in, but maybe that's just because I religiously watched ISL. So in the wider context of swimming, I don't think everyone appreciates just how good she is. So I'm with you, Steve. I'm going under, but had ISL been continuing and still here, hopefully it comes back. I think that short course profile and how much that pumped up swimmers, I think she could get onto that level.
I think ISL's a big factor, isn't it? Because she was targeting that 200 freestyle world record for a long time, almost week in, week out. Is she going to hit it this time? Is she going to hit it this time? Literally every week. I just wonder if she were to have won gold in Tokyo, would she then have been the superstar that she probably should be? I mean, you think of a race, an event, and you think of the silver medalist, and it's quite difficult to try and think of a silver medalist. Whereas you instantly know who won it, don't you? I don't know if that's it's almost like a little bit of a curse, really. Yes, you could choose a double silver medalist at the Olympics, but is that forgotten because she came second rather than first?
But surely that answers the question straight away that she's under because she won 2 silvers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And I think that she's capable both long course and short course, which doesn't happen a lot with swimmers nowadays. It's almost like you have your short course swimmer, you have your long course swimmer, and very few do both. And she's one of those swimmers, I think.
Yeah,
which I think kind of proves, obviously.
I think the struggle she's got now is her 2 best events have just got a lot stronger.
Yeah. Well, that's the good thing, isn't it? Because there's so many names that she can race against. Your Ledecky's, your Titmus, your Summer McIntoshes. It has to be the best event in swimming right now, that women's 400 free. Has to be. And the fact that she's in with the mix. I mean, if she wins it, then suddenly her profile goes through the roof. Instantly, I think.
Yeah.
So I would say underhyped, yeah.
Under. Cool.
Yep.
Right. Miscellaneous topics then. So I got a fun one to start off with. So every coach and swimmer will tell you that the aim is always to maximize your underwaters and go the full 15 meters allowed on the start and every turn. But is this experience as a spectator of the sport, especially when you're in the stands and there's no underwater cameras, over or underhyped? Is it a good spectacle to watch, this 15-meter rule?
Right, I'm going to jump in here. You two are probably too young to remember the 1988 Olympics. But,
I wasn't born, Steve.
Yeah, so I told you, much too young. But there was David Burkhoff and Daiichi Suzuki, the two backstrokers, American and Japanese fella, they both decided or discovered that swimming underwater was faster than swimming on the top of the water, but there were no rules how far you could go. So they would do 35 metres underwater, come up, do a couple of strokes, do their touch turn, spin around, go back, do another 20 metres underwater, and then start swimming. So that was not a good spectator
It's like short course yards.
Yes, exactly. Only in a long course pool, that was not good. And I think the 15-metre rule was a consequence of that, and rightly so. And then it felt to me, well, it felt, I'm sure, to a lot of people that it was a little while before we really saw it again, wasn't it? 2007 Phelps was the time I remember it in Melbourne in his 200 free there, where he went the full 15 metres off the last turn with his amazing fly kick. And I think watching it on TV, I think it's great because you get the underwater camera, you can see the skills, you can see how fast they're going, and you get the kind of, you can also on the TV, with the panning cameras, you can sometimes see when someone's underwater and you can see they're going to break out next time. It's really dramatic. But I can certainly get it that if you're in the stands, could be a bit dull. But I'm now going to talk myself out of that position, because I remember if you're high enough up and you've got enough of a view that you can actually see into the water, you're not getting the reflection, big window or whatever on the other side. I remember watching a short course nationals, and it was 400 IM Stephen Parry, and he did a full 15 metres underwater off the last turn with 25 to go, and he was second, I think, when he turned, but you could see enough of it down that you could see him underwater, and he did his fly kick and everything, but you could see him overtaking, and I can't remember who it was, so I apologise to whoever it was, but you could see them being overtaken while he was underwater, but you obviously weren't sure whether he was going to get past, break out, or hold on. So it can be good, but I'd still err on the side of not great if you're in the pool.
So essentially, Steve, what you're saying is you need to be in the cheap seats for it not to be overrated. You need to be really high.
I think that's exactly it. If you've got enough of an angle and you're at the back, it can be exciting. But otherwise, if you paid money to be down the front, it's a bit rubbish.
Oh, I'll tell you what, that's an interesting question. Whereabouts is the best place to watch swimming? Is it up high? Because, Dan, we watched Barcelona right in the top of the stands up there, and that was pretty good.
Yeah, it was, and we were looking down the lanes, weren't we, rather than across the lanes.
Yeah.
I think it's better to, like the camera angle you get at like Olympics or World Champs or whatever, and they are looking side on. Maybe high up is better, because then you get to appreciate the distance that they do make over the opponents on the underwaters. Yeah.
I mean, I've been filming a lot on poolside recently, and that's a pretty good position, but not many people can walk along the side of a pool.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
So what are we saying? We're saying overhyped, ultimately, as a spectator.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah? That's why I stood on it as well.
Leaning towards that, yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to stick with the whole short course topic, if you like. Last season, we saw a massive 18 short course world records swims, but are short course world records over or underhyped?
So are you saying are they important in the world of swimming, or do they just get hyped up too much because they get broken all the time?
Well, I suppose Olympics long course is the ultimate goal, isn't it?
It's the ultimate pool as well.
Yeah, exactly. So if you hit a short course world record, does it mean much? Is it over or underhyped?
See, before last season, I probably would have said it's about right, it's fine. But last season, the amount of world records and the amount people got excited about swims in the short course pool, I'd say it's overhyped. I don't know why. I just feel like that.
I don't get that. I think the issue with short course world records is they, as we saw last year, they come along in clumps because it depends on who's taking which championship seriously. So the Aussies at home, world short course, they want to put on a good show for the crowd, and that lifts everybody. And and you get a whole load of that. I think the ISL did something similar. I mean, they're head-to-head racing and everything, and somebody sets a world record one week, and someone wants to try and get it back the week after. So you get those kind of things happening. But the rest of the time, people are swimming it at the end of a season. It may not be their main focus, or in the case of Britain and America, the best people at short course swimming don't get to go to the best meets to race to do it.
True.
So
that's what I was going to bring that up. Yeah, because you got Coleman Stewart, who got the world record in the 100 backstroke, but then didn't get selected for the short course world champs, I think it was.
He didn't go to Abu Dhabi. Just having said it,
which is baffling. It's a weird one because I kind of wrote that thinking of Coleman Stewart and then thinking of Carl Chalmers in the 100 free, where again, kind of like similar to ISL, he was going with these FINA World Series and he was getting closer and closer and closer, and it ended up being quite a big deal. Yeah, that ended up being quite a big deal.
But then I guess you're, for the Coleman Stewart example, the fact that he set a world record and then didn't go would just show that them world records are underrated in short course swimming.
I think it's more that short course swimming as a whole is underrated by many federations.
Yeah,
I guess we go underrated.
Especially when British swimming don't really care for it, do they? They're all long course swimmers, aren't they? Or long course focused.
Yeah.
Matt was at home this winter and swam faster than anyone who went for the Brits.
Yeah. So, there you go.
Cool, Steve. Oh, go on.
Oh,
you got anything else?
I was going to say. So, no. What did we conclude on that one? I lost track. Did we say they're underrated?
I think they're underhyped, underrated as a whole. Yeah. If you're saying like short course swimming is underrated, then the world records that go associated with it are underrated as well.
Yeah.
You've turned me 180, both of you.
All right. Well, we've touched on it already. My miscellaneous one, if you like, I wanted to throw out there, and I may be this may be one that you have strong views on, but the ISL. Now, I know very much it had its problems, not least not paying everyone, and it's and undoubtedly they made mistakes, but as a thing, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I loved it, as a concept and everything like that. But I know people have differing views. I kind of think ultimately it ended up overhyped.
Oh, I didn't
because
think that
was because of what it ended up delivering. That it kind of lost its way a bit. But at the core, I thought it was fab. So I'm interested in what you guys think.
Trying to suss us out here on ISL, aren't you?
I agree. I agree that the concept, I think, is good for the sport because it's short, fast racing. We've just had the Arena League finals, and they are awesome, right? Because the atmosphere is absolutely buzzing. You've got the 10 teams or the 4 teams that are racing each other, and the atmosphere is incredible. I think it's good for the sport. But I just, like Steve said, I just think they went about it in the wrong way. Paying people is the priority, clearly. If that was the aim from the outset, you've got to do that.
I think they tried to pay people too much, personally. But I'm not not going to object to swimmers cashing in. That's not where my problem lies with it. I struggle with the last season of it. I couldn't get into it just because there was almost too much. Like it sounds weird, but there was too much racing to follow.
I didn't like the whole gem thing. It's like diamond and
yeah.
That was completely unnecessary and confused everyone. But in terms of the actual racing, I kind of like the idea of the splits for the 400 free, where you get points for your 100 meter split, and then you basically try and hold on. And then he tried to do it in the 400 IM, which I didn't really like, but I thought it was all right in the 400 free. So
are you two both going it's overhyped, ISL?
I thought it ended up over, because it got too complicated. Much as I loved it, and I, unlike you, Scott, I watched pretty much every match of season 3, but it was just the scoring got a bit too convoluted, and I think they thought they had something a bit better than they did. Whereas season 1 had its problems, don't get me wrong, but season 1 was really exciting. Season 2 was terrific as well. I mean, it had the jackpots, but other than that, it was still fairly straightforward to follow. And it was all, and like you said, it was all nice and contained, wasn't it? But then they kind of drew it out, and they were going to grow out even further if it kept going. And it's
See, I'm gonna disagree with you both and say it's underhyped and underappreciated, because I think the world of swimming is worse without it. The past few years, you look at the amount of retirements in America, and some of the names that have retired recently is stunning. Like, it just blows my mind that a year out from the Olympics that they would stop the sport. So I think it kept a lot of the world's best swimmers on our screens in the public eye. It eventually paid them, and that's why they stayed in the sport. So I think from that aspect and the excitement level, I think it's underrated how, for those few years, I think it was really important for the world of swimming. I really do. Because imagine if that wasn't around before Tokyo Olympics, how dead would those few years leading into Tokyo have been, really? I just think, for me, it filled so much of the swimming world for a very long time. And I think the past winter was very quiet. Well, to be fair, we had 3 major meets. So
would it end up being, though, having a lot of swimmers that are past their peak because they can't get to the Olympics, they're not going to final or something like that, but they're in the sport to make money? So I'm trying to think of a comparison, a bit like Live Golf with, the Saudi stuff at the moment, where they almost, the golfers that go over there are losing the legacy of PGA, but they go over to Saudi to make money. It's a bit of a weird comparison, but that's kind of what I'm linking it to. So I like the idea if it keeps the swimmers in the sport. I think Nicolas Santos will still be going, definitely, if they are still going. I think probably never retire in the end.
I think the execution of it is overrated, but in terms of ISL as a whole, I think it's underappreciated, if that makes sense. I actually think it was really good for the sport of swimming for a very long time.
I think you've hit the nail on the head of where I was. The idea was underrated, and then by the end it was a bit overrated for what they delivered. Yeah. However exciting and however much I got involved in it, because I did that.
Yeah, I couldn't say you had the London Raw podcast.
That's one of the reasons I loved it.
Okay, I think we've got time for some bonus rounds, some very quick fire ones, so we'll run through them very quickly. I'll start things off. We all know the benefits of cold water swimming from mental health angle, scientific angle, but is this experience of getting into sub 5 degree water over or under hyped? And I can direct this straight at Dan. I don't know, Steve, if you've ever been in, well, Dan's been in 0 water temperature.
Yeah, that was cold. That hurt.
Did you enjoy it?
Enjoyment isn't the right word at all. You get to, like, we've done it with the ice swimming world champion, haven't we? And his words were, you get a little bit of like euphoria from doing it. So I understand the mental health aspects of it. So
yeah, I know you didn't.
What, got mental health benefits?
No, you didn't get any euphoria at all. You were just complaining.
Oh no, I was just shivering. Like, what have I just done? But then from a scientific point of view, it does. Again, I'm not a scientist, but I think it replaces all your blood cells, or freshens, gives you new blood, or something along those lines. It helps recover muscles and all that sort of stuff. But I do think it's overhyped. I don't know how many people actually do it. You do have some nutcases that do it on a daily basis. We know one of them. But I think it's overhyped. So I like the idea that it probably does work, but I don't know how many people actually do it.
I think there's plenty who do it, Dan.
I know. I work with people that do it every day. Go and swim in the Lido here at 5, 4, 3 degrees. But to me, completely overhyped. Not for me. Hate it.
Bosh.
Done.
Yeah.
I'll hear no more about it.
Right, my turn. We've kind of half spoken about it already with Ledecky and Titmus, McIntosh and Haughey. We're experiencing a bit of a golden era in the women's middle distance freestyle right now, with the likes of the names that I've just said. Is the event over or underhyped?
I'm gonna end the podcast and say perfectly hyped.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I like the amount of buzz around McIntosh gets it to the level, I think.
Same with Ledecky, I suppose, as well. I think in the swimming world, it's perfectly hyped, but then across sports in general. Like, not many
well,
people know who Titmus is, or no one really knows who Siobhan Haughey is. But in a swimming world, I think it's perfectly hyped. Everyone knows that is the race, the 400 free especially. That is the race that everyone is tuning in to see. But is it underhyped because no one actually knows it outside of swimming?
See, I'm gonna jump in there because the pro swim when Summer beat Katie, and it was Katie Ledecky's first loss on American soil for 8 years, whatever. That was that was in the Guardian, and
was
you,
it really?
and you
Wow.
and you think, they picked it up from an agency, but it was still in there, and you think, well, if people, it's a big story because Katie Ledecky is a big star. She's got a lot of Olympic gold medals, a lot of world records. And now you've got all these people challenging her. Obviously, the Ledecky-Titmus rivalry is a great story that's been going for a couple of years anyway. And now you've got a couple of others who are trying to elbow in, and possibly one of the most exciting teenagers we've seen for a long time. I think it's perfectly hyped. I'm with Scott.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good place to end, but we will let the guest finish.
Yeah.
Come on, Steve.
Oh, crikey, now I've got to think of one. So I was thinking ultra short race pace training. You hear it a lot. Obviously, the poster boy for it is Michael Andrew, and I would never, I'm not one of the people who would ever say anything about him as a swimmer because he's brilliant, and there are not many people who can be an elite level at 50 metres in every single stroke. But I think it's got its time and its place. It's probably not the training method if you want to do anything other than 50 metres, is my conclusion, and I think it's been overhyped.
I agree. I think it is overhyped, and I think it's a method to get quite quick results with no long-term benefit. Because you see Michael Andrew, he's still doing very well. Let's not beat around the bush, but he's not hitting the heights of what he did. Like, he went into the 200 IM, the fastest qualifier, going into Tokyo, didn't he? I know the tactics were sort of scrutinised a little bit because the 50 freestyle split at the end was like a 29 or something like that, which obviously isn't great, but he still went in the fastest. The problem is he then came out with a 5th or 6th or something like that, wasn't it, in the end. So I do think it's a short-term benefit. If you want results quickly, you do that, but if you're looking for long-term gain, it's not really the way to go. So I would say it's overhyped.
I think you're being kind with the word scrutinised. I think he was chastised almost, actually, with that 200 IM. I'll go the training method is completely overrated for me, but the man, Michael Andrew, is underrated. I think it's good to see someone doing something different in the world of swimming, and he gets performances. It might just not be at the Olympic distance level. But yeah, the training method, I don't think there's many who do it, and I think that's for a reason. If it was like perfectly hyped, or if it was underhyped, then I think you'd see a lot more swimmers following the Michael Andrew way. But the fact that there isn't a lot of swimmers, and he is a big poster boy for the training method, kind of shows to me that it is overhyped.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that one. Yeah,
cool.
Yep.
And it's a nice fun one to end.
Yeah.
Steve, thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of the podcast. It's been great to speak to you again, and hopefully we'll try and actually bump into you on a poolside soon, although I'm not sure when we're going to cross paths.
No. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Enjoyed chatting all things swimming.
Yeah. I mean, we could all speak swimming all day long. You guys listening just get a snapshot of the 45 minutes that we actually record.
Yes,
essentially.
So much before and after, yeah. Listen, thank you very much, Steve, for coming on, and I think you're going to be like us and looking forward to champs coming up in the next few weeks or so.
Yeah, looking forward to trials season everywhere, but British trials especially. Yeah, see what everyone's up to. Want to see it. Yep.
Yeah.
So, for those listening to this podcast, if you have any opinions on the takes that we have just put out, I am sure there are going to be lots of people who disagree. Leave comments on the YouTube section. We love to hear everyone's opinion. That's why we put this out there. We are not right. We are not wrong. We are just putting opinions out there. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so on our YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And me and Dan will see you in 7 days' time.
Yeah, thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one.
You've been listening to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast with Scott and Dan. We want to thank you for joining us and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as checking out the Propulsion Swimming YouTube channel for weekly tutorials and videos to get your swimming fix. We will be back next week. Until then, we'll catch you on the next one.